Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Around South Jersey. My special guest is our state senator, Mike Testa. Mike, good to see you.
It's great to be back. Happy New Year to you and all of your listeners. It's been a while since we've gotten to see each other in person. You look great.
You do too. Well, this guy always looks great, I'm telling you. You talk about a super person. It's interesting, too, Mike and I were talking about, I guess all the shows we've done have been on location, Quinn Restaurant or Motorsports Park or whatever. But today we're in this, well, look where we are. We're in Capitol Road. Now, is that the Senate? Is that for everybody?
That looks like it's the United States Senate.
Oh,
not the state Senate. That's not where I am. That's for
okay.
sure. It might be an older
I have
picture.
to talk to my producer.
Yeah.
He's got to get that together because I thought it was state Senate.
No, and it's interesting at the State House, where Antoine and Eric are, is where you often see the governor do his budget address or his state of the state. It's a much brighter, more beautiful room. The Senate is sort of a little bit darker and more somber. And I guess it's supposed to reflect the different houses,
Oh, that's a shame. Well, of course, obviously, what do you have, 34 senators?
40.
40? Okay,
Yeah.
40 senators and 80 assembly.
That's
people,
correct.
right? So
80
twice,
assemblymen and women.
Yeah, and you lucked out this year. You don't even have to run.
This is the first time I'm not going to be running with my running mates of Antoine and Eric,
Yeah.
and I get to sit back and try to help them. And
Yeah.
and as chairman of the Cumberland GOP, I can help my candidates who will be chosen at our convention on March 1st, help them get elected.
And, of course, you got your right-hand man, Joe Condo.
Oh, Joe Condo, the Karl Rove of South Jersey, as I would call him. Yeah, absolutely. And Joe Condo is my right hand, and I understand he's going to be on your show pretty much right after me today.
Absolutely. I said, I got a great doubleheader of super people here. Well, I don't know if Joe told you, I kept hearing about Joe Condo. I never had the honor of meeting him. So Nick Aselda, who was my second favorite state senator next to you, and we were out to Eastland one night, and he points over the other side of the bar, and Joe was having dinner, the guy, so he goes, "That's Joe Condo." I said, "Oh, I'm going to go say hello." So I went over to introduce myself. He said, "I know you, Jim Quinn." And we got talking, and it was really funny how certain things just connect. We realized in the late 80s, early 90s, actually it was 90, 91, I was freeholder director in Cumberland County, and he was freeholder director in Camden County, probably the first and last ever. I mean, it's a very heavy Democratic.
Absolutely. He has the distinction of being the last Republican freeholder director in Camden County history. So, and because we've changed the nomenclature, he's going to go down in history as the last Republican freeholder director in Camden County history, for sure.
And we had a great time. We talked about, and the reason that he was the first freeholder director in Camden County, and I lost my freeholder seat in 1991, was a guy called Jim Florio. People did not like Jim Florio, so therefore Joe benefited from it, and I got smashed down by him. And it was, he was going to tax toilet paper and all that kind of stuff, right?
So, and I was in high school at the time as a high school Republican, and I still remember Florio free in '93 was the slogan.
That's right.
Yeah, but that was a popular slogan, so much so that it was even not uncommon to see on bumper stickers.
Yeah, that's right.
Florio free in '93 was a really popular bumper sticker. And yes, taxing toilet paper is probably not the way to win the hearts and minds of New Jerseyans and to stay in office or to help any of your running mates down ballot.
Yeah, boy, that's the truth. Well, and that is very good point that, the other, you talk about timing in politics. And, of course, Senator, no matter when you run, I can't, in my lifetime, I'm never going to see you lose. I know that. And, I mean, it's not only the great job you do, but it's also the fact that between you and Joe and all of your people, you've flipped Cumberland County to be a red county from when it used to be a blue for years and years. When I was running as a freeholder, it was very blue. I don't know if I ever told you, this is an interesting story, and I found out the Democrats lie. In 1981, they asked me to run for freeholder, and I was independent at the time. I kept wanting to be a Republican, but Jim Hurley, who I loved, I talked to Ethan Aronoff, and I said, "Ethan, can I join the Republican Party?" He said, "Jim, there really isn't any Republican Party in Millville to speak of. There was no." I said, "Okay." So I stayed independent, and the Democrats asked me to come and MC some of their events, which I did, and then they said to me, "Hey, you know what? Would you consider running for freeholder?" in 1981. I said, well, I'm not a Democrat. They said, well, you could go register. I said, okay, so I did. And anyway, in 1981, they didn't tell me the truth until a week before the election. I'm out there banging on doors, campaigning like crazy, thinking I have a chance of winning. So the luncheon a week before the election, Chuck Fisher was the freeholder director at the time, and we had a luncheon, and he's sitting going around the room, Sheriff Castellini, you're a winner. At Salmon, you're a winner, which Ed wasn't. And it was John Bernard, Gary Zimmerman, you're a winner, you're a winner. He got to me, he goes, and you can't win. Oh my God. Well, he was telling me the truth. It was 6-1 Democrat. And you know who the one Republican was? Guy almost as popular as you, Harry Freitag.
Oh my gosh, Harry Freitag, a legend.
Absolutely.
An absolute legend in Cumberland County, and the Freitag name on the western portion of our county.
Absolutely.
And through his funeral home, how popular of a guy. Very reminiscent of Skip Louisi.
Well, you're right. Look how well the Undertakers do. Mark Paget was an Undertaker.
Sure.
He was there. Van Rocap, Undertaker. He was a county freeholder way back in a big board. And they're in a great position. They're there to comfort people at the time of sorrow and all that. And, in fact, we'll talk about Skip. But to finish up the story, then I'm walking out, and Chuck comes over to me, and he felt bad. He said, look, Jim, you're not going to win, but here's what we're going to do for you. He said, John Rose is going to retire at the end of this year, and we're going to appoint you to his position so you can run as a semi-incumbent next year. I'm thinking, Jesus, is great. So I'm on the Morrisville Township School Board at the time. I'm saying, guys, even though I'm going to lose, I'm going to win. Well, then I found out they lied because the Democrats did. What happened was when it came time, the guy that was running didn't want me on the ticket with him. And I understood his reasoning because we're both basically Millville people. He wanted more Paget because it gave the balance, East-West Paget. I thought, you know what, I'm fighting this thing. So all of a sudden, none of the Democrats talked to me except 3 or 4. Bill Biondi and Nikki Jerome, a few of my violent friends, Joe DeMarco, were still friends with me. But I worked really, really hard, and I won the primary. And I'll tell you what was interesting. Thank God John Nardelli did this to me, for me. Instead of taking me off the line, he put all 3 of us across the one line and put vote for 2. So when I would call the campaign to the people that voted in primaries, I just said, I have 1 of your 2 votes. And I did. I won by 400 votes. And then, of course, I was well accepted again. They liked me.
Listen, winning is the cure of all ills, as I've been taught many years ago. And look, one of the things I can say is, through the history, and I love learning some of the history from the Millville and the county side from you that, before my time of even being interested in politics. But, I consider myself a fairly smart guy, but I don't like to reinvent the wheel. And because of the success of people like Harry Freitag, I saw someone like Skip Louisi as someone who could be kind of the modern day Harry Freitag, from Vineland, and someone who does understand individuals who are grieving, who find them at their worst of time, when they're saying, hey, we need to find the will, we don't know what to do with this will, their loved one has departed, and Skip has that.
Yes,
and
he does.
And he deals with that each and every day in his profession. And by all accounts, he's doing a fantastic job.
What a great guy. I love his sense of humor. Such a good person. Like you said, everything you need in a funeral director, he provides it. The sympathy, everything, the help. And again, it makes a lot of sense to have him go as a funeral home director to become the surrogate because it's a natural, they covered very similar situations. And boy, you know what? It's interesting. I mean, to your credit, in fact, Sandy Taylor was on with me doing a show, and it was right before the election, and she was talking about your 3 people and then the other 3 people, and I said this, and I meant it sincerely. I actually liked all 6 people. I really like Celeste Riley; she's a really nice lady, but I like Tori Lodes. She's sharp as a tack, good person, and Cilio and Romero, nice fellas, and I always liked the sheriff, the former sheriff Bob Ostino, and trying to think who his running mate was. He didn't. Johnny Capozola, who I like. He's a good teacher, but he wasn't successful. I guess what I wanted to ask you too was, were you a little disappointed this time with the results, or did you sort of expect?
On the county level, I was somewhat disappointed, because you see, I just look at the numbers. You see President Trump wins Cumberland County by 2,000 votes.
Yeah.
Curtis Bashall, the U.S. Senate candidate, wins Cumberland County. Then you see Jeff Van Drew, who is really an anomaly in South Jersey politics.
Oh, unbelievable.
He wins Cumberland County by 4,000 votes. I was very hopeful that our message was monolithic in nature and that there would be, some coattails from President Trump and Congressman Van Drew for sure into Cumberland County. Unfortunately, that wasn't necessarily the case. We saw that in the numbers, and we're still sort of analyzing why that happened.
Yeah.
One of the things that I knew for sure was that Celeste was going to be difficult to beat.
Yeah, great
The,
name.
the Riley last name
right.
in general.
Yes.
And this isn't taking anything away from our clerk, but her father is a legend.
Yes.
He's a physician who has delivered
and her mom too.
hundreds of,
babies.
if not thousands of babies in Cumberland County.
Yeah.
So people know the Riley family name. They also know that, look, Celeste is a brand in and of herself at this point. She's been elected a number of times, was in the General Assembly,
right.
and is now elected to the clerk a number of times. And one thing I have to give her kudos for is that she has modernized that office. Since she has been the county clerk's office has become more modern. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Her having a satellite office at the Cumberland County Mall.
I just want you to know that.
Well, kudos to you.
No, honest to God, she and I talked about it, and it was interesting because I watched the last meeting, and Albrecht was way off base in my opinion. He close up the satellite office, and to Sandy Taylor's credit and to Tori's credit, they said, wait a minute, it's convenient, and she's bringing in $200,000 in what do you call it, passports. And
I got my passport there, so I can tell you that's the office that I went to myself.
Well, and Mike, it makes sense. I mean, in all due respect, the Bridgeton courthouse is not convenient to find a parking place, to get in there and do all that stuff, where everybody, oh my gosh, it's perfect. It's a great location. So, I was probably director, I was freeholder when she did that, and we talked about it. And I said, let's do, the mall. And it does make a lot of sense. I think Camden or Gloucester County does it too at the Deptford Mall. I'm not sure.
I'm not exactly sure. I think it's a great idea. Look, we have a very large land area mall.
Yeah.
I mean, county.
Right.
The mall makes sense. People who don't even have their own cars can use public transportation to get there. If you're from Vineland, Morris River Township, other places like that, it's not convenient to necessarily have to get to Bridgeton just to go to the county clerk's office. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. I do. So.
Yeah, and it has, and like we say, they've had good response. People utilize it, and it's very convenient. That's what you want to make for people as much as you can. We're talking with Senator Mike Testa, and we'll be back to talk more right after these messages.
Many people treat their health like a game. With Complete Care Health Network, it's easy to start your healthcare journey. Just select from our specialties and schedule online, by phone, or on our app. Our entire team communicates with one another, so everyone works together on your total health. Plus, we make it even easier with all of these additional benefits. Level up your health with us. Complete Care Health Network. No games, just great health care for everyone.
At Mintz Insurance, we're proud to have been serving our customers for nearly 80 years, offering 30 different insurance products for your auto, home, and business. And to help ensure that you're getting the best rates possible, we give you up to 3 quotes for every policy, so you can choose what's right for you. At Mintz, we're part of the community, local representatives, supporting events, and proud of it. It's part of who we are. Mintz Insurance. Call today and find out how we can help you save on insurance, or visit us at mintzinsurance.com.
Did you know people litter less when their community is clean? Don't trash Cumberland County's future. At home, cover garbage and recycling cans. In your car, use litter bags to prevent trash and litter from flying out of the window. Also, keep your truck bed clear of trash and debris so our streets stay clean and hazard-free. And avoid single-use plastics such as straws and water bottles. Keep Cumberland County beautiful. Please don't litter. Visit theauthoritynj.com.
Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union is your hometown team for banking. We offer banking which is small town focused and customer based. We know you and we are for you. Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union is a nonprofit and federally insured. Solid as a Thunderbolt airplane, we are your team. Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union, 1601 Cedar Street.
Hi, I'm Bob Millard, President of Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union. Come see us and experience banking as it used to be.
Welcome back to Around South Jersey. My special guest is Senator Mike Testa, who represents the 1st Legislative District. And Mike, your district expanded a few years ago. Now you have Bridgeton and
Yeah, so they took some towns away. Some of the towns that they took away was actually
Atlantic County?
no Cumberland County,
Oh.
Shiloh, Hopewell, Greenwich, and I got traded for Bridgeton.
Oh, okay. So they took those away from you?
They did. Those are now in
Third
Senator
district.
Berzicelli's
Okay.
Legislative District 3. Yeah.
Well, you know, I really like, I'm sure you probably met him, is Dave Bailey, the new assemblyman. Isn't he
Sure.
a great guy. Did you know his dad? by any chance?
I did not know his father.
His father was a very well-known minister, and in fact, for years he was on WSNJ. When I owned the radio station, he did a morning religious program. Great, great guy. It was interesting because I went to his funeral viewing. It was in Woodstown, and luckily my friend and I got there early enough to get inside. We were back at the inside part, and said hello to Dave and everything, and paid my respects. And on the way out, the line was 3 blocks long. I mean, this is how much this guy was loved. I mean, it was all over South Jersey. And what he does, and of course now what Dave does, is they've been running Ranch Hope for Boys for many, many years.
I was going to bring that up. I mean, you know, that's where I've met Dave,
Uh-huh.
and you can tell he's a gentleman who loves his community, who wants to give back to his community, and I have to call it balls and strikes as I see them. I mean, he definitely cares about his community and all of the work that he does through Ranch Hope. In fact, my chief of staff, Casey Deere, and I had a meeting with them about Ranch Hope and what we can do
that's
to help
nice.
them out. Yeah.
That's super. I guess the thing that I see is the 3rd legislative district. What do you think makes that so Democrat? Is it Gloucester County, that part?
Well,
I mean,
technically, if you take a look at the last 2,
well, that's right. It was Republican right before that because Durer won, right? He beat
that is
Sweeney.
correct. Yeah. So there was certainly, I think, in the I'll call it the COVID whiplash of 2021. I think people became fed up with the fact that Governor Murphy had pretty much shut down the entire state. 1/3 of all of our small businesses had to shut their doors forever. They couldn't survive. And I think Legislative District 3, interestingly enough, had voted even for President Trump in 2020. I believe it was almost a Trump +5 district in the presidential election. But Senator Steve Sweeney had always been what I would label a blue dog Democrat for the most part, and was able to have a stranglehold on Legislative District 3 for so many years. And look, he was the longest standing Senate president in our history of the state of New Jersey. Wow. That's a pretty large distinction. Yeah. The one problem is, and look, he and I were colleagues in the Senate. We did get some great things done for South Jersey together. But I think most people always saw Steve Sweeney as a real fighter. Yeah. And he didn't necessarily put up the fight that they had hoped he would have against Governor Murphy and Speaker Coughlin at the time, who were sort of in lockstep with, keeping our state shut down, keeping children out of schools, sort of following the NJEA mantra. I remember getting some emails when I was fighting to get our children back in school because I knew that severe learning loss was going to happen. Yeah. Severe socialization loss was no doubt happening. Yeah. And, the NJEA and I think that they've been commandeered by radical leftists, and I mean that. I'm not trying to be overly political here today, but I think they have been commandeered and captured by a certain segment of the Democrat Party. And I got emails saying that I was trying to send teachers to death's door by having them go back to school. I find that to be absolutely preposterous. Yeah.
Well, different for sure. But as you look at, so the 1st legislative district, you have a few communities, 1 or 2 in Atlantic County?
3. So it's Estelle Manor, Corbin City, and Weymouth.
Okay.
So it's a little crescent cut out of Atlantic County that we have.
That's where we are.
And that's where Joe Condo is. Estelle Manor.
Yeah. I did see a picture of you swearing your mom in. That was really nice for the Buena Vista Township.
That's correct. Yeah, she had been the deputy mayor for a few years there, and I have to say this: it's really interesting to swear your mom into office, administer the oath of office.
What an honor.
And I can tell you how that happened, and after our historic win, myself, Antoine McClellan, and Eric Simonson in 2019, my mom had been complaining about some of the services in Buena Vista Township where she and my father live, that, Trash pickup isn't as often as Vineland. They have to rely on the state police, obviously,
right.
and yet their taxes continue to go up every year. And she's saying, geez, we keep paying these exorbitant taxes. I don't understand this. We need to elect better people. And I said, well, Mom, you could run. And she said, why would I want to run? And I said, I think you'd be great at it. You're very passionate about, because she wasn't born in Buena Vista Township, but she spent the first part of her life after her family moved from New York in Buena Vista Township. They were Jewish chicken farmers.
Oh, wow.
So she has a lot of love for Buena Vista Township. And I said, look, this kind of seems like a fitting story for you. And she ran and she won, and now she's been elected twice.
Well, it's interesting. I think of Chuck Sherella. I'm sure you remember him. And
Sure.
Chuck had a lot of health problems. And was it Teresa Kelly was his backup? There were like the two of them. But all of a sudden, once your mom got in, it just went, it's all Republican again, right?
It is 100% Republican now. Even the one individual that was, the sole Democrat that was on the commission, he changed parties to Republican. So now everybody's Republican. It's a good thing to see there. Look, Chuck had a stranglehold on Buena Vista Township for 3 decades.
Yeah. When I was mayor, he was the mayor of Buena Vista Township.
And look, you need fresh blood, no matter what party's in power. I don't really like when I see people who have been elected for 40 years in a row.
Right. Well, Joe Biden had 50, didn't he?
Exhibit A. There's Exhibit A right there.
Well, while we're talking about Buena Vista Township, my favorite mayor cousin is Joe Baruffi, of course, with Buena Borough. And in fact, we're now doing the Buena Borough meetings live, like we do the county meetings live. And of course, again, all Republican. And did you ever know my cousin Harry Curley?
I did not really know him, no.
Because you're young. But my cousin Harry Curley was the mayor of Vineland. And Joe was, of course, married his daughter Jill. So that's how we're all cousins, because Harry's father and my grandmother were brother and sister. There were 12 of them. Good Catholic family.
That's right.
9 brothers, 3 sisters. But anyway, we just recently held a 90th birthday party at Savoy for Harry, and had a lot of my cousins came in and all that. You know what was neat too? Do you know Steve Bertonazzi?
I do. Yeah.
I was so impressed. He's a priest. It's like, my gosh, that's great. And he didn't win until a few years ago. He's in his early 40s now. And I have another priest friend. You ever get a chance, you got to go to St. Joe of Hamilton. David Rivera. I just love that guy. He is what a priest should be. He exemplifies everything. Very caring, and just so I go up there once in a while on Saturday night, go to mass, and then I take him out to dinner. And it was really neat. Like, he's almost as popular up there as you are in First District. We go out to dinner, we go to a restaurant, and it's Father. I said, my gosh, you're like a rock star, David. And they brought him out a big dessert and all that complimentary.
That's wonderful. So where do you like to go in Hamilton when you go out to
go out this wine bar? And this was Iliano's.
Okay.
That's where we took him.
Hamilton has so many good restaurants.
Don't they? Yeah.
So you have a Nata Wine Bar, which is actually owned by a friend of mine that I grew up with.
Is it the Rodeos?
Yes, and Philip Bernozzi, who married into the Rodeo family.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's like Bernozzi and Rodeos together.
Gotcha.
And I grew up with Phil Bernozzi. We actually went to Montessori together with preschool in Vineland. So
you go way back.
We go way back together, and he's a great guy. His brother, I believe, is one of the chefs there at Nata. But I like Rocco's Townhouse.
I've never been there.
That's a great place. You'd really like it. And then, of course, you have the Maplewood out there as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
there's a lot of great restaurants in Hamilton.
And you and your dad, I know you hit lots. In fact, we got to talk about this a little bit. You hit a lot of nice lunch places. I know Olympia is one of mine. It's one of your favorites, right?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, the lunch with my dad is just me being, and this is me being very serious here for a moment. I know we like to joke a lot, but the time I get to spend with my father, I cherish it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And there's never a time that I don't attempt to at least go grab lunch with him if he's available.
Nice, yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny story. In the 2019 campaign, one of the staffers on the campaign said, well, I really need to talk to you. And I said, well, we'll get together after lunch. I'm having lunch with my father. And they said, well, do you really have to have lunch with your father? I said, if you want to keep your job, you're never going to ask me that question again. And it was pretty quickly realized that lunch with my dad means a lot more than just grabbing some food. It's the time I get to spend with my father.
And let me tell you something, his father is amazing. Honest to God, one of the nicest men you'll ever meet in your life. Well, you see, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Just a wonderful man. Frank Basil, how in the world did you guys get that guy? I mean, Frank Basil was the Democratic chairman when I was a freeholder. He wasn't Mike Testa Sr. or Mike Testa Jr., I can tell you that.
So, I met Mr. Basil. I never called him Frank until he was deceased. And there's a beautiful story. If we have time, I'll tell it. It's a beautiful story that probably won't leave too many dry eyes. But I met Mr. Basil when I was 7 years old, when my dad and he were thinking about becoming partners. And they had this kind of a partner meeting that determined whether they were going to do this or not at the rocking chair in Avalon.
Oh, wow.
It was a lunch. And I got taken there. Like, my dad took me everywhere. And this was a pretty high-level meeting, to be honest with you, for a 7-year-old to be at. And, it was back when kids, were to be seen and not heard, so to speak. But I sat there and listened to them at lunch. And, Mr. Basil he had a real soft side, by the way, if you didn't know him.
Oh, really? I never saw that side of him.
He didn't let too many people see it. I saw it so many times over the years. He had a fondness for me, and I had a real fondness for him. Nice. But you're absolutely right. He had a very gruff exterior.
Yeah, he did.
And he almost relished in the fact that he was a very smart individual who would pontificate. Yeah. And he was probably one of the most well-read individuals ever. But he reveled in the fact of sometimes being the curmudgeon.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was funny when I was after I lost the freeholder election in '91. They put me on the College Board of Trustees, and I think Frank was in fact, I know he was solicitor there. And this was another funny thing. When I was director, I felt very strongly that we needed to spread the jobs out to many people, not one person with 3 jobs. Well, I went to Frank at that time. He had a couple jobs. I said, Frank, I think maybe you should give this job up. No way. I said, okay. Well, I was just trying to give it to somebody else too, to spread the wealth around. But like you say, and but it was funny because he was the chairman of the Democratic Party. Now, your dad wasn't chairman of the Republican Party.
He was chairman of the Vineland City Republican Party.
Okay, gotcha.
So they had an interesting relationship. But for those that didn't know Frank Basil the way I knew him, he was an amazing cook.
Oh, I didn't know
He
that.
was extremely well-read.
Oh.
He was an avid car collector, and he loved British motorcycles. He had BSAs when I was a young boy. When I say he was a really neat guy, he was a really neat guy, and there was a side that not many people got to see. But a bon vivant for sure as well.
I do remember visiting him in the hospital when he was not doing real well and stuff like that. But he's a memorable person, that's for sure. And it's been many years, right, Mike, since he's
Yeah, so he passed away when I was getting my LLM in trial advocacy. So that would have been I believe it would have been August of 2005 he passed away.
Yeah, it's been 20 years.
So it'll be close to 20 years.
Yeah, 19 years. Time flies, buddy, I'm telling you.
It does, and time waits for no man is the famous quote for sure. But it was, that was a really tough one, seeing him. And I'll tell you the whole story off camera one day. It's a really beautiful story about, a gentleman who also, I got to have his last drink with him. I'll put it that way.
Nice. Yeah. In fact, that's an interesting thing. The one nice thing I do remember with Frank, before we would go to this county college board meeting, we'd go over to the Windjammer and have dinner.
Okay.
And so we'd always, he would loosen up and laugh and joke a little bit and be more and less stringent in that type of situation. But he was very competent, I will say that. The man knew his law and did a good job as that was concerned. We're talking with Senator Mike Testa, who was the 1st Legislative District for the state of New Jersey. We'll be back to talk more with the senator right after these messages.
Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union is your hometown team for banking. We offer banking which is small town focused and customer based. We know you and we are for you. Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union is a nonprofit and federally insured. Solid as a Thunderbolt airplane, we are your team. Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union, 1601 Cedar Street.
Hi, I'm Bob Millard, President of Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union. Come see us and experience banking as it used to be.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here. And if you're having a hard time hearing, call MD Hearing because they changed my life and they can change yours too. I was wearing expensive hearing aids for years until a good friend of mine told me about MD Hearing. I bought a pair of the hearing aids with no doctor visit, no prescription, and no hassle. I got fitted right over the phone, and I've never had a better pair of hearing aids. I'm even wearing them right now.
Call now and get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids for just $297 with a free portable charging case and free shipping. The rechargeable Neo is nearly invisible with its tiny in-the-ear canal design, and you can get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids with a 45-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free lifetime U.S.-based support for only $297.
Call my friends at MD Hearing and get the over-the-counter hearing aids that I use for you.
Call 855-993-1930.
In Cumberland County, let's recycle right. We recycle cardboard, paper, aluminum, tin, and plastics number 1 and 2. Look for the 3-arrow triangle usually on the bottom of the plastic container. The number in the center determines the plastic number. Remember to recycle only number 1 and 2 plastics. Plastic bags, plastic film, hoses, and wires are not recyclable. They can damage sorting equipment and create hazardous working conditions. Don't trash our future. Do the right thing. Remember, reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Many people treat their health like a game. With the Complete Care Health Network, it's easy to start your healthcare journey. Our mental health services focus on the emotions and behaviors that affect your overall well-being and features psychiatric, counseling, and addiction services, including our exclusive Fresh Start program, designed to help combat the opioid epidemic in our communities, plus all the other specialties you expect from Complete Care. Level up your health with us. The Complete Care Health Network. No games, just great healthcare for everyone.
Welcome back to Around South Jersey. My special guest is our state senator for the 1st Legislative District, Mike Testa. And Mike, coming up this year for the election, as we talked about, explain to people when the senator runs.
So it's interesting. It's a 10-year cycle, technically. Okay. So it goes 4-4-2.
Okay.
So I ran in 2023. If I choose to, I'll run again in 2027. That'll be another 4-year term.
Good.
And then 2031 would be a 2-year term.
Okay, so it's 4-4-2.
Yeah, because we redistrict every 10 years. So that's supposed to be like that. And then the assembly, unfortunately for Eric and Antoine, have to run every 2 years, just like Congressman Van Drew has to.
Yeah. Now, the congressman won't be on the ticket this year, right?
No.
Because he was on this last year.
Correct.
So
but he's every 2 years.
Antoine and Eric are on their own this time.
Correct. It goes governor and then assembly this year.
Now, speaking of governor, I've never met Chitterelli, but he seems to have the inside track on the Republican side. And do you think he's going to be able to win the state as well?
So he certainly has the inside track, but I mean, I think it's too early to call the primary. Not only does he have the inside track, I think he has the best grasp of policy for the state of New Jersey so far. I mean, he's had 3 terms in the assembly, the number of years ago. But
yeah, but I know a guy that's had a couple terms in the Senate that I would rather see the governor personally.
From your lips to God's ears, maybe one day, Jim. Maybe one day.
That would be wonderful. I mean, because I think the world of you and what you've been able to do for all of us, and I mean, I don't know Chitterelli, but I know you, and I'm thinking, my God, would it not be a blessing to have somebody that people like from South Jersey? As we talked about, Florio wasn't very popular. I guess, was he the last South Jersey's?
I would say he would be the last, So it's been over 30 years at this point. Yeah. And look, I think South Jersey is severely underrepresented. Even when we're there, our voices somewhat get drowned out by North Jersey because of their population and their needs. And that's what I see sitting on the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee. And I make a stink every year about it. And it's we've been able to make an impact, but it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes real time to make an impact.
Well, speaking of making an impact, somebody, one of our friends, was telling me that when, I think it might have been Mayor Finucci, talking about when Joe Chinizzi, I'm sorry, it was Don Renier. He was saying when Joe Chinizzi was the state assemblyman, Jim Hurley was a senator, the guy from Cape May County, the engineer.
Cafaro?
Yeah, well, no, Cafaro was out and Hurley took his spot. But there was Jack Gibson.
Jack Gibson,
yeah, right. So anyway, got talking about, when Joe Chinizzi said to Don Renier, Don was mayor of Bridgeton at the time. He goes, Don, I go up there as a member of the minority party, and he said, I don't feel like I'm able to get the things done that I would like to have done. What I wanted to mention to you is, as I look at the numbers, I mean, to Trump's credit and to your credit and to all the county, leaders, county Republican leaders, you've really been able to bring the state of New Jersey, which was a very blue state, to being on the edge of becoming a red state.
Look, I mean, I've always said that New Jersey's a purple state. We haven't been able to crack the code for the U.S. Senate for some reason or another.
Yeah, that's true.
But we've been able to get Republican governors. I know your favorite governor, Republican governor anyway, Tom Kean.
Yeah.
Governor Christie was a two-term governor. I mean, he didn't necessarily leave with the most favorable numbers.
Yeah.
But in his first term, to his credit, he was the most popular Republican governor in the United States of America. I mean, it seemed like everywhere you went, somebody knew who Chris Christie was. His second term, unfortunately, didn't turn out as favorable as most would like.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, I think that tarnished his legacy as a governor of the state of New Jersey.
Wasn't that the Bridgegate or something?
Yeah, that was Bridgegate. He went out with extremely low numbers. Not that I think Governor Murphy's going to go out with very high numbers.
Yeah, right.
I just, it's very hard. We just had recently the state of the state last week, and here you had a governor telling New Jerseyans who were struggling that New Jersey is a stronger and fairer state, that they're making more money than they really believe, essentially. And I don't think that the average New Jerseyan believes that anymore. And I unfortunately, with Governor Murphy, he sort of is doubling down on the message, the failed message of Harris, that the Biden-Harris regime had.
Right. Yeah.
That, hey, you're doing better than you think you're doing. No, this is all working. Well, look, I am the chairman of the manufacturing caucus for the state of New Jersey. There are 40,000 vacant manufacturing jobs sitting here today in New Jersey.
Well, there are going to be more because your buddy's getting rid of all the immigrants. So good luck finding people to fill some of those jobs.
Well, and he's planning on bringing manufacturing back to the United States.
I know, but who's going to do it?
I think one of the problems, and this is a real-world solution, Jim, and I mean this, for far too long, people who were going through high school and even, our junior colleges, our community colleges, they've been told that they need a 4-year degree. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
I have one, I have a law degree. But far too many times, I think we were trying to fit square pegs into round holes, telling everybody to go to a 4-year college.
Yeah.
They're accumulating debt that they're never going to get out from under, or it's going to take a very long time.
Yes.
And the average manufacturing job in the state of New Jersey is around $65,000 a year with benefits.
Yeah.
That's tremendous.
Yes. Wait, it's interesting you mentioned that. I taught school, and it was back in the late 60s, and at that time, people, and I understand, parents were pushing their kids to go to college, because they didn't. And so, but I said to the kids, I got to talking to them, one kid loved working on cars. I said, are you kidding me? Be an auto mechanic. And I mean, and I know, I pray my plumber comes. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for showing up. And the heating and air conditioning people, the plumber I mentioned, electricians. I mean, it's hard to find, and they're making really good money. But it comes back to what I think you were alluding to too. Do what you love, folks. If you love fixing things or building things or that, do it, because we need you just as much as we need an educator or somebody with a degree that doesn't necessarily want to go into a specific field. But I tell you what, we are lucky to have some really good companies here that have plumbing, electrical, heating, and air conditioning. Well, Dale's Appliance, I love those people. They're in Newfield. I know they're outside your district. But my dishwasher, I needed to get it repaired. And bam, they come over, and this was neat too, Mike. What was cool was they came in with a fella probably mid-50s, was the senior guy, and a young fella maybe in his mid-20s. And I got talking to him, and I told him how proud I was that he was going to follow suit. And he said, thank you, Mr. Quinn. He said he was going to some appliance repair school in Elmer or something. I said, well, that's great. Then this was a cute one. I had HVAC, my air conditioner went. And I called Jerry's Heating and Cooling, and they sent over a fellow named Doug with his son, Doug, who was a basketball star at Millville High last year. But I said to him, young Doug, I said, I'm proud of you. You're getting into a career that's going to be good for you, good for your family. You know, like you said, you're going to make 65 at least out, use the start.
Well, and you think about it, they're always necessary.
Yes.
You know, if your washer and dryer goes down, they're needed.
Yeah.
But you think of all of the manufacturers that have been in this area now, you know, like Lavoni came to Millville.
Yeah.
Those jobs are really good paying jobs, and they're not like, you know, I think people think of manufacturing facilities, and they think of, especially around here, they think of hot glass houses,
company, yeah.
and they say, geez, I don't want my son or daughter working in that
Yeah,
area.
right.
But people don't realize, number one, the modern manufacturing is super clean. It's almost a hospital-like setting.
good point.
And also there's so many different areas. There's accounting and
Yes,
manufacturing.
yeah.
There's
HR,
sales and
yeah.
manufacturing. There's HR,
Yeah,
as you said.
right.
And what's great about manufacturing now and partnering with Rowan College of South Jersey, you can get what are called stackable credentials. So you're not under this 4-year mountain of
Right.
college debt. Slowly but surely, you can move up. And a lot of these companies are paying for their employees to get those degrees.
Super. Yeah.
So there's been a lot of buy-in throughout the state, and I have to tell you, again, I don't like to reinvent the wheel. The model of this is the County College of Morris. So they've been sort of the North Pole of manufacturing, and I'm doing my hardest work to make Rowan College of South Jersey the South Pole of manufacturing
Super.
for the state of New
Yeah,
Jersey.
It would be great. It really would, because we need, you know, those people to be able to provide the jobs. And I know one of the people I just think the world of is Joe Sbracio. I love that man. He and I served. He was the only Republican, and I tell this story. All the years I was in office for Millville and county and all that stuff, I was basically single. So after the meeting, I'd have to go find someplace to eat because I don't cook. So anyway, Joe and I had teamed up, and we would go to Winfield's one week, or twice a month. One time at Winfield's, the other time at the Town Tavern in Bridgeton. And just, I love his personality and his family. What wonderful people. And again, and to your credit, I mean, they're the people that I've seen you've brought forward to run as candidates, that you don't get better people. You really don't. And I remember one, this was funny, I guess they were honoring Larry Pepper.
Yes.
Remember? And you made a statement, I thought, it's true. Because you've had great success. Larry didn't have real good success during the period of time. And I love Larry.
I remember the line that I used there, yeah.
And I know you do too. He's a super guy. In fact, when I got elected mayor of Millville, we didn't play politics. Thank God I ran as me. I didn't run as a Democrat or Republican, nothing. Just ran as me. And I got elected top vote getter. And then Jimmy Parent got elected. Oh, Jeff Trout, actually. I encouraged him to run. And he finished second, and Jimmy Parent and Joe Durrell and John Hollingshead. So 2 were registered Republicans, 3 were registered Democrats. But we never played the political card. And it was wonderful because Larry was our negotiations attorney and did a great job. Everybody was there. We just left them alone, let them do their job. And it really worked out well. But what a good guy. As you know, what a wonderful person.
I grew up with one of his daughters who's a couple years ahead of me, Lori. And I could tell you, Chairman Larry Pepper and just the human being Larry Pepper are just 2 great individuals.
Yeah.
And you think about this, when I was a high school Republican, I mean, this is how important Larry Pepper was to Cumberland County, to Vineland especially. President George H.W. Bush came to Vineland.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
I got to, there's a picture of me somewhere of me
Wow.
shaking the president's
Well, that's
hand
great.
when I'm 16 years old. It's
That's
remarkable.
fantastic. Well, geez, before you go, I've got to ask you about the inauguration. Did you get to go?
I did get to go to the
Well, that's
inauguration.
gotta be exciting.
Unfortunately, when it was moved inside,
Yeah, right. You were downstairs?
No, many of us who had tickets, it was going to be first come, first serve.
Oh, I see.
And I had an indoor ticket originally,
Okay.
or upstage, up close to the stage originally. Right. I was told that we'd be given preference, but I have to tell you, I wasn't willing to necessarily wait outside in 12 or 13 degree weather at the time.
Yeah.
That's about what it was that day.
Yes, it was.
So,
That's
but
true.
I did get to go to the Garden State Ball, of which I was a bronze
Oh.
sponsor.
Oh, that's super.
That was on Sunday night. And Sunday during the day, I got to go to a really wonderful luncheon for the Republican National Lawyers Association,
Oh, that's nice.
of which I've been a member. And it was funny because a good friend of mine that I went to college with and law school with invited me to sit at his table.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I ran into another individual I went to law school with there, so that was great. But the pinnacle of it all was probably I got to go to the MAHA ball, the Make America Healthy Again ball, which was hosted by Robert Kennedy Jr.
Oh yeah,
and he and I are actually pretty friendly for some things that happened in the state of New Jersey from late 2019, early 2020. That's how I was able to go to that ball. I had a blast. It was celebrity packed. Dr. Jordan Peterson was there, if you know who that is.
Yeah.
He gave a great speech. Russell Brand, who's an actor, gave a great speech.
Nice.
The entertainment was fantastic. The food was
great.
fantastic, and it's all over my Facebook page and social media.
Cool.
So it was a great time. The feeling was electric. It really was.
So you didn't get to see the president?
I did not get to see the president of the United States.
But when he comes to Wildwood again, you'll be able to host him, right?
God willing, yes.
I think that it was a shame because of the cold weather, but I think they did what was right. I mean, my gosh, who wants to sit outside in 12-degree temperature?
I don't think anybody does for 2 to 3 hours.
No, exactly. No, not at all. And I thought it was interesting from what I watched the inauguration, his scripted stuff was pretty good. Then he went downstairs and became the Trumpster as he can be, off the wall on some of the things. But in fact, he even said downstairs, "Yeah, Melania and JD told me not to say this, but I'm going to say what I want to say."
Well, one thing about him, just much like you said, how you got elected mayor, he is himself.
Oh, he is.
And that's
for sure.
And the people appreciate the fact that he's not always on script, and that he's going to stick to that script. He's going to be who he is.
Yeah.
The guy that was on The Apprentice, how he got elected, and how most people know President Trump from being in their living room on The Apprentice.
Yeah. Well, before we went on the air or off camera, Mike and I were talking about thinking about who in the world could compete with Trump for the presidency, and my son Gary is good friends with Mark Cuban, and several years ago we were sitting watching an Eagles game, and I said, Gary, you think Mark Cuban might consider running for president? Because he's a billionaire, he's a TV celebrity on Shark Tank, and I like him. He's a very nice man, and my son said he is a very, very nice person. But anyway, he messaged him or whatever, and he said, Mark said to my son Gary, just tell your dad I wouldn't do that to my family. This was many years ago. It was 5, 6, 7 years ago. But you're right, Mike, when you look at it, he's got all those things going for him. The Celebrity Apprentice, I like that show, watch that show. His name is everywhere, every casino, 3 casinos for a period of time, all the buildings, all the golf courses, and all that kind of stuff. And it was interesting, they mentioned, and I thought they'd mention you, they mentioned the 12 billionaires that's on his cabinet.
Maybe one day. I mean,
I hope so.
I wouldn't be upset about it. I'll be willing to say that. But look, President Trump, I think, he loves this country, and I know that from my discussions with him. He really loves this country. He wants to have manufacturing back in the United States. He does not like this open border policy that preceded him. Mm-hmm. He thinks it's very dangerous for the country, and I think he's right. I mean, with the amount of fentanyl that was coming over our border, the amount of criminals that were coming over our border, we have to make sure that we keep America safe. What I said in 2019, and I was a child of the 80s for sure. If you remember that American Express commercial that said membership has its privileges. Remember,
I do.
Yeah. I've said since I ran in 2019 that citizenship should in fact have its privileges.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's one place that among many that President Trump and I align for sure.
Yeah. Got a funny story to tell you. In 2019, when Senator Testa was running, I always wanted to run for assembly, and Andrew wouldn't let me. No, you raise taxes, and all that kind of stuff. And I realized what he was looking for, I obviously didn't fit the bill. But he got elected to Congress, so he moved Andrew Zach up to run for Senate, who ran for Senate against you. And then the Cumberland County Democrats supported me unanimously to run for assembly. And I, of course, I was so with the Republicans because they really didn't know me, or the Democrats came in county. But anyway, I get a call from the senator, or from the congressman. He goes, Jim Quinn, I, Jeff Andrew, and the titular head, this is a quote, of the Democratic Party, and you're not running. I said, okay. And then about 6 weeks later, he became a Republican. But he never gave me that opportunity. But I guess what I wanted to say was, I probably is just as well off I didn't get picked, because I would have lost, just like all three of them lost. You guys swept them. You and Antoine and Eric just swept the whole ticket.
Yeah, and look, Antoine's been placed in leadership in his caucus.
What a great guy.
He's a fantastic
really
human being
yeah.
who is just so well known in his community. Eric's been a lifetime educator. I'm in a leadership position as the whip in my
Oh,
caucus.
that's super.
So it's going pretty well for us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think I'd like to say we've left a lasting impact. I had that historic legislation, the $100 million boardwalk
Oh,
preservation.
for Wildwood, right?
Well, all of them. I mean, it was
Oh,
all,
that's super. Yeah.
and about 34+ million came into Cape May County. I've been working very hard on the manufacturing side of things. I can tell you that I'm working on something that's actually fivefold of that $100 million project.
Wow.
On the manufacturing side that will really, really help
that's
South
super.
Jersey if I'm able to get it across the finish line.
That's good.
And it appears that myself, the EDA, and Governor Murphy want to. So I
Oh,
think
that's wonderful.
it's looking like it's going to
Hey,
happen.
that is great. Well, buddy, I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. It's always a
And
pleasure.
It's nice to meet Casey. I got to speak with Casey. Casey's your chief of staff.
He is. He's my chief of staff.
And thank you, Casey, for putting this together for us. And I wish you the best. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Hope sooner rather than later, for sure.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you so much, Senator. Senator Mike Testa, the senator for the 1st Legislative District here in southern New Jersey, has been our guest. And I want to thank George Kachia for producing the program today. And I want to thank you for joining us. Have a good evening, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.
This has been a QBC television production, in association with our partners and sponsors. QBC broadcasts on Comcast Cable Channel 22, and live streams its programming on Facebook and YouTube. All rights reserved by Quinn Media and QBC, programming that serves the South Jersey market.